Hi everyone, welcome back to Khaa-lo's This and Yap. This is our first episode of season two, and we're so excited to bring on our podcast today, Rama from Satya Blends. So Rama, what I truly love about your guys' journey is how you're preserving this very authentic Indian tradition that you're bringing from your own grandmother into modern way of life. And I think this speaks with your packaging, like the recipes that you've created, everything is still rooted into your heritage, but it has this modern take. And I think what truly I find inspiring is that you're building this with your mom.
Oh,
And it gives a very like comforting vibe, especially for me. Because like I started khaa-lo that was also very like deeply rooted in community and culture. So I love seeing what you guys are doing. And then before I let you guys introduce yourselves and Satya Blend, Satya Blends has been served at some of our events previously, and everyone was a huge fan. And something we loved with the events was that it was just so versatile. Like it wasn't that we have to just serve it with Indian cuisine. We can serve it in drinks. We can, use it on desserts. And I love how we were able to really like, take these again, authentic spices and really expand on that. And I think this is something that you guys also mentioned on your website that, this is not just limited to Indian cuisine. You have your recipes that are from pizza to Mediterranean salads. And you can, that just goes to showcase how innovative you can get. So without further ado, I do want to let you introduce yourself, Rama, and just, learn more about your creative space and how you're building Satya Blends.
thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. Like, I think you took the words out of my mouth about introducing. So thank you. And you've really understood the concept and what we're trying to
Yeah.
share with the world. And the everyday modern kitchen. So my name is Rama. I'm one of the co-founders of Satya. My mom is a co-founder, Anita. I'm a mom of three. She's a grandmother of eight. So a lot of our why is our family, is the kids that we feed in our family, is we would never produce anything or share anything we wouldn't feed our own, grandkids and kids. So speaking of that, our blends are extremely, extremely clean. And that was actually one of the pillars of why we started, being Indian. uh, you could really be from, any culture or ethnicity. There's certain foundational ingredients that really make and break, right? Your just everyday cooking. And we realize spices are one of the most adulterated ingredients in Indian cooking. And we took that for granted for a very long time, right? Like food dyes. We don't know what type of fillers they put in spices, where they're coming from, sometimes the taste. I'm sure you know that, like, when you buy a pre-mixed spice blend, it can be really salty or really spicy. So we really wanted to kind of take that concept that was existing and modernize it and make it better for you and clean and accessible. Who has the time to shop? I mean, I'm a chef, okay, like a professionally trained chef. Who has the time to shop for cardamom, turmeric, cumin powder separately, all those single spices? And so we really wanted to cut the overwhelm of where to buy it, how to buy it, how expensive it is to buy it, and then store it in your pantry and it gets lost, right? Like you're gonna buy, I don't know, say nutmeg, right? It's like I don't know. I use nutmeg like twice a year. It's sitting there for like 10 years later, you know? So we wanted to cut that overwhelm and just create those blends. So yeah, I mean, you shared with Satya is our whole goal is to empower the everyday home cook to add Indian flavors into simple foods. So just elevate your
Mhm.
morning breakfast to your smoothies at lunch or salads, your dinners if you're cooking non-Indian dishes like pizza or pastas, you can add it in there too. But if you want to make your dals and curries and rice dishes, then that serves, our blends do a great job to make that delicious as well. And as chefs, you're not Googling a spice blend recipe. You're not like spending all this time and effort to make it and realizing that your chicken tikka masala didn't come out good. because the foundation of the spices, we are providing that for you. And again, as chefs, it's kind of a blessing and a curse because we were so particular about our blends and our packaging and keeping our
Mm-hmm.
spices nice and fresh, sourcing them from good quality farms, storing them in beautiful packaging. So every time that you use them, which I'm sure you've seen, right? Um,
Yep.
that like plastic plug lid, right? Um,
Yes.
every time you open it, it's like you're opening it for the first time. It's like going on our first date, you know?
Yeah.
You get to date the spice every time. It's like super exciting and fresh and retains the flavor and the taste. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. And something that you mentioned that I think right away finds Satya Blends product market fit because I remember, I mean, growing up in an Indian household, sometimes you don't recognize the complexity of Indian cuisine. And like that was for me, I wasn't really in the kitchen as much as a high schooler. I just like didn't have as much interest in cooking, but then when I go off to college, I'm so far away from home and all of a
Yes.
sudden I'm like, oh, I miss Indian food, but it was just so difficult to cook
Yeah.
because, like you mentioned, like there was like 10 different spices. Not a lot of them are readily
Right.
accessible. But beyond that, I just think it was hard to like gather all of these different blends because like maybe like you're getting four of them but then one of them is missing, and I
Right.
think like that, and again, like as I mean, like in my case as a college student, when you already have so much going on, but then also like you can apply this to, I'm thinking about like young parents who are working.
Totally.
um so I think like when there isn't this accessibility, then you kind of start losing the culture a little bit, because I think like for me, I was just going for, what was the easiest to cook. Like I was still, cooking chicken. I was still cooking curries, but it was just not Indian curries or, like something as flavorful, just because I didn't have the
Right.
ability to do that. And beyond ability, then I think it goes into something that I'm so glad that you mentioned, because for the longest time, in the Indian spices space, like on grocery shelves, whether that is, like Indian grocery stores or just like, big chains, there has always been just a certain few spice brands that have always been there. And I think like people just, either didn't have any other options or they just got used to using them. No one really questions what is going on in there, like what is going in them. And like I think as I was growing up, like I became more conscious of it, and I was kind of like, I feel like, all these other condiments, they have
Yeah.
so much information about like what is going in them, and but these Indian spices don't. So I really love how, you guys are transparent where you're sourcing your ingredients from. And this is definitely something, I want to talk more about in our podcast. But let's start with talking about how you are actually building a family business. So you're not just building products, you're building something that is, deeply rooted into your heritage, something that is almost a legacy. And that obviously has a lot of weight. If someone wanted to, like learn, or like if you were to give anyone advice about, building something that is so deeply rooted in authenticity and, like culture, but still wants to stand out, what is the advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I love that question. And if you asked me when I was 18 if I was going to work with my mom and she was going to be my business partner in this journey, I would literally bet you $1 million that that was not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is that you really gotta embody your 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 feelings and your why and your how and your what and all those kind of questions when you're working, with, of course, your family, right? My mom in this case, and not just my mom, but like whenever we work on a new spice blend, which we have one, actually, our first spice blend, we have 9 different, but our first new one of the year launching this year. The whole family's involved in that concept. They're tasting it, we're talking about it, we're seeing how accessible it is. Are we able to share this with the next generation? Because this is really the whole point of our product. The whole point is, like you said, creating legacy, but it's creating this generation where I'm a child of immigrant parents, right? And this was food was such an important aspect to keep us together and also stay um, kind of fresh and talking and connected to our culture, right? That's the time where if my mom was to make a paratha, which is a stuffed Indian bread, right? Um, she would tell me a story about my grandmother making it a certain way or her grandmother making a certain way. And then the stories would happen that way, and things like that. And so we wanted to create this spice blend, not just, of course, for, like we said, to use a spice blend, but to create a whole kind of movement around it where it brings you back to the dinner table. It gives you a chance to share or spark those cultural stories about your family, whether you're Indian or not. Of course, Indian is what I'm trying to preserve, but any ethnicity, it kind of just has you, talk about certain stories, childhood memories, nostalgia, or maybe talking about, hey, you know what? When we were a kid, it was very hard to find mushrooms, right? And you could talk about absolutely anything. So we're really using this as a glue and as a vehicle to pass down culture, family memories, traditions, and things like that. And I've seen it with my own eyes as a kid. I have three kids of my own. I see it with them. Um, and I see it with a lot of other families. We can't really forget that, like, this is the true richness of life, right? It's those relationship, it's those memories, it's those, it really defines on like who you are. So we're really trying to go into a deeper way to connect with that third culture, like me, an American born Indian first generation,
Yeah, no, I love everything that you said because, as you were talking, it made me realize that, I you're not just building this legacy for yourself. I feel like this is also like, beyond just like, your story, but also kind of like going into like the bigger community and the,
Yes.
like bigger part of culture. Because I think, there are so many other, I mean, as a child of immigrant parents myself and, having lived in different countries, like I definitely relate to the part where you are trying to like preserve this identity of yours,
Yeah.
and at the same time, you need to find the balance
Right.
with almost like your different identities. And
Right.
I love that, like Satya Blends, like the way you guys market it, it's very inclusive. It's still very much rooted in heritage, but it's again very inclusive. Like, for example, like I want to try more vegan food, and I think I can go on your guys' website and I think I can find like easily like the two that come to my mind directly are actually the recipes I want to try, and I think it's the tofu one,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah.
yes, yes, and then the other one is the watermelon salad.
Oh my gosh.
So I think yes, I mean, like it would be perfect for the summer, and I think it's just so exciting. And like we know that these products are a testament to generations of recipes that are
Right.
passed down. So, you're already connecting to something that is bigger than just a bowl of food. But something that I want to talk about that I think people may not know is that you donate a certain portion of the
Yes.
sales to a family in need in India. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more about how you
Yeah.
work with these
Yeah.
projects?
No, of course. So as a CPG owner and as someone who, launched this company a year and change ago,
Hmm.
kind of adding that angle and aspect to our business was huge. We wanted to give back. We know that we wanted to honor the country of where these spices are sourced. Um, we also wanted to honor my grandmother, who's Satya, that's her name, hence the name of the business. She had the biggest heart. I mean, actually, all my four grandparents did, and they were very huge on feeding people. Feeding people every day when my grandparents would walk out of the house, their goal was to feed one person. So they would either take a packed meal from their house and give it to whoever that they saw in India, or we grew up with every birthday, every anniversary, any special occasion, we would always feed people. We would go down to the shelter, actually here in New York City and make 100 sandwiches. We say the blessings of many is something that is so powerful for us. And we hope that we can get their good vibes and hopefully, like when we're feeding them, they're, happy and we're happy and it's kind of a win-win on everything. So with those kind of, I mean, it's a very long story, but with those kind of touch points, um, we feel like giving back is so important to us that one of our biggest goals as
Hmm.
Satya is of course, as we grow, our goal is to create a cooking school in India and hire women,
Oh, I love.
um, and train other women who, either have hard times finding jobs or that's really what they're good at, make meals. And then those meals
Hmm.
also get served within the community that may not be able to afford,
Oh, I
food.
love that.
So it's like kind of a big circle. And that again, that's like a big fabric of our family, when it comes to
Hmm.
feeding people, um, you know, through food, and just I don't know, that's just so much of a part of
Yeah.
hard to put into words. So it was an easy way to think, okay, what are we going to do? Where's our 1% of giving back? And it's definitely in feeding people.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, that is absolutely, I mean, something again that is like so much bigger than like, just like some like having food on your plate. And I think like becoming a part of that larger community. And I love that you shared that with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think, it is so important when you're building a brand that you are able to honor where your source is coming from. And I think that also just adds more value to it. My next question is actually kind of related to, working with farmers. And while we won't get political on this podcast, I do want to talk about, there are some harsh realities of building a business. Sometimes, that is not under our control. And I know you guys source your spices directly from India. So I would love to know a little bit more about, how you, as a small business owner, we need a lot of resilience. So what is some advice that you can give to business owners that are maybe just starting in the food and beverage space, and like something that has helped you become more resilient?
Yeah. So I will say, like, I know this sounds very cliche, and I'm just gonna have to say it because I think about it on a daily basis. But put on horse blinders, put on
Yeah.
horse blinders and focus on your own business and your thoughts, and don't second guess yourself when it comes to, let's say packaging or choosing a color on the package, or
Yeah.
where you want to pitch your product to, because honestly that's going to stop you in your tracks. That's going to make you second guess yourself, and then you're going to be so exhausted from second guessing yourself that you're just not going to do it at all, because the overwhelm, the tiredness
Yeah.
of those thoughts is just going to stop you, right? So just put on horse blinders, look
Hmm.
exactly at what you're doing at your work, in your world, and how you can better your business and grow your business with,
Hmm.
yourself or your partner or your team or whoever it is. So that's one really big piece of advice. Like, just put your head down and work on your own stuff, kind of drown out, um, that, that second guessing, because
Yeah.
that can be just too much and overwhelming. And the second thing is, it is so hard. Like, honestly, I've given birth 3 times and I'm like,
Yeah.
that is painful, but like, it is so hard. I have laughed. I have cried a ton. Actually, I have laughed, celebrated, been upset, thinking, why me? Why am I doing this? What's wrong with me? And,
Yeah.
all these thoughts come through my head all the time. I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. But when you go back to your why at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and you just look at your product, or you look at notes that you write down, I have like a notebook that I write down random notes, of reminders of hard things I've done in life,
Mhm.
or, difficult situations that always work out because tomorrow's a new day. That
Yeah.
really helps me. So I think pausing in those moments, stepping back and looking at your why is very important. And of course, you don't need to go down the rabbit hole of, why this, why just like my thing is not overthinking it, just take a
Mhm.
second, look at your why, read your notes, look at all the hard things you've gone. Maybe in third grade, you broke your leg, and you survived
Yeah.
that. That's a good example of why right now I can keep pushing on, what I'm doing. Um, and third thing, eh, social media really is such an amazing thing, but it also can kind of, you know, kind of tying into the first point of imposter syndrome, or thinking you're not doing
Yeah.
enough all the time. You do
Mhm.
enough for your own timeline.
Yeah.
Nobody else can tell you. At the end of the day, you're the one paying, yourself. You're the one putting the food on the table. No one else is doing that for you, right? So you work on your own
Yeah.
timeline, at what feels comfortable for you. Maybe some CPG brands, have an exit after 2 years. That is
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so happy, and I would love to learn and get inspired by them. Some CPG brands have an exit after 30 years, and that's
Yeah.
a choice they wanted to make, and I'm so happy for them, and I want to learn from them too. So I think there's
Yeah.
beauty in every single scenario, and I just think you got to stick to your own timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think something that you said, I mean, everything, resonated with me as a business owner too, because I think just like going to social media, especially with Gen Z, like, we kind of grew up on it, and like I think it is so easy to feel imposter syndrome. Like I as a founder, like, definitely have struggled a lot with that. And something to I think, keep in mind when you're doing your branding, I think Gen Z as consumers, what we've realized is that they like this authenticity. So, like, Rama, I really appreciate you sharing this because I think it is so important to not sugarcoat, because on social media, a lot of the times people are like, oh, we're doing like 1 million in ARR in like 3 months. And if they are like, that's amazing, would
Yeah.
love to learn more about how you did that. Like, but at the same time, like like you said, it's everyone has their own timeline, and like it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Right. There's so
Um,
many factors right behind the scenes.
yeah,
You don't know if someone
yeah,
else has another job, right? They're working
yeah,
a corporate. You don't know if they're just getting married and they're planning a wedding in a year from now.
yeah,
You don't know if there's some family emergency happening on in their life.
right.
You don't know if they got fund don't have the funding anymore. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
aspects that one might not share. I understand why they might
Yeah,
not share. I mean, I don't, of
yeah,
course, share everything that goes in my business, but knowing
yeah,
that there's so many factors that can't you can't connect yourself and hold yourself so accountable to that like you just are paralyzed or handicapped in your business with those thoughts and that imposter syndrome and
yes,
that like I'm not doing well, because once you get down
yeah.
that hole, forget about it. It's hard to get out.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like it is pretty normal to like, go through that. And I think in those moments, it
Sure.
is very important to like stop and realize, what you're doing, why
Yeah,
you're doing.
exactly.
And I think something I have started doing this for myself too is, start taking breaks, because that really helps you analyze, where you are, and also give yourself credit. So
Yeah,
I think something that you said earlier about, like just having a very like narrow bit, or like a very like focused vision, kind of
yeah,
like eyes on the prize.
yes,
I think every successful founder that I have spoken to has given that advice, that, like eyes on the prize, like, you always have all of these things happening,
yeah,
like, sometimes it's in your favor, sometimes it's not,
right,
sometimes you have control, sometimes you don't. So thank you so much for like, sharing those insights. I think like it is important to hear a more vulnerable version of, and realistic, honestly, version of, what it really takes to build a business, especially in the CPG space.
yes,
Um, I do want to talk more about, like, because I think authenticity and, what we're building, that plays such a role in, especially with social media, into like, your branding. And you guys do have a very unique, I think, like, way of branding through your packaging, which, is like, your packaging is beautiful. I think, I especially like it more because, again, like with Indian spices, that usually,
yes,
when I think of the spices, it's like those like thin cardboard
yeah,
boxes, tiny cardboard boxes that are like, they're like black and maybe just
flimsy,
have like a picture. Yeah.
yeah,
So I love what you've done. Again, you've kept it that traditional tin box take, but at the same time, you are able to bring out something very unique. Tell us a little bit more about, how you're using your packaging to build your brand identity.
Well, I have to say, it took us about a year and a half to 2 years to build out our branding
Yeah.
and our packaging and really take our time with it, not
Yeah.
to get into more details, but we have another business that we run, a private chef agency and catering. So
Yeah.
nice that, we had that while building this in the very beginning. Um, but our packaging, we really, really, really wanted it to be not the other stuff on the shelf that you shared. We didn't want it to be like a chore where you came home, you opened up the spice box or, whatever cardboard box, it fell all over your counter, which happens more than we know. And then it's impossible to reseal it because you just roll it. It's not like, you can't reseal it. You put it in a Ziploc bag if you want, or you just throw it away because by that time you're so fed up of the whole concept. And then, you make your one dish fine, but then you don't make it again because you got to go buy it. So we wanted something that was really, very kind of obvious to the home cook that you could just kind of keep it in there, the spice blend in the tin itself. We wanted it to be also, kind of nostalgic when it came to something round. The masala peti or spice tin, is where we store most Indian households store their spices in that, and that's a big round container. And so we wanted to kind of keep the vision and the authenticity, like you said, we're rooted in tradition and authenticity with our packaging. So an ode to that, really keeping the round container, and make it very attractive. And then third thing is we also didn't want it to be stored in your pantry behind closed doors or in your drawer. Want Our goal is to have our spice blend Satya right next to your salt and pepper. So it becomes a habit where you're grabbing your salt and pepper, your season, I don't know, your avocado, but you're taking Satya's
Yeah.
cilantro chutney to season your avocado, but you're using the same cilantro chutney in the evening to season your rice. And then you're taking this cilantro chutney and you're sprinkling on yogurt for your chat. There's just so many different ways that you can use it. So our whole goal is it's pretty enough to keep it outside in your countertop where you create the
Hmm.
habit of reaching for these good for you spices that add flavor, but also
Hmm.
health and all that other things. And then the last thing was packaging. As you know, in today's world, beautiful things sell, right? So we know
Yes.
that we wanted to stand out with that. We wanted a buyer from a store to say,
Yeah.
wow, we've never seen that before. And how is this going to look on our shelf? Are people going to grab it? Are they going to buy it? Does it tell a story just with the packaging? So we thought about all those angles for our direct to customer business online, but also our retail business.
Hmm.
um, is it attractive enough that a buyer would be like, wow, I've
Yeah.
never seen that before? And you know what? It's happening. We have been getting that feedback. And so we're so happy for future CPG owners or who people are starting, invest
Mhm.
in that packaging. I can't believe I'm saying that, but invest in that branding and that packaging. I feel like that has been very successful for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so agree with that. Like I think just like I want to touch on the packaging again because again, like we distributed some of the tins at our events and I remember one of the feedback that we got was she was, like the person they were literally like, "Oh, instantly I knew that like, I didn't know how to use it, but I knew I wanted to try it
Right.
because the packaging was so attractive." So I totally see that because again, like I mean, CPG, the reality is that it is saturated and
Yep.
something that we have seen about like all successful CPG brands is that you're not there in the grocery store. And like we say this a lot, you're not in the grocery store when, your products are on the shelves. So they have to be able to tell their story without you being there.
Right.
And I think like this is exactly what Satya Blends has been able to do. And again, something that I'm gonna refer to earlier, like the tin box concept, I absolutely love that because again, like those like little packaging for spices, like I would put a clip on it or,
Rubber
like
band.
do something. Yeah, but it just like it's still not the same, it
Of
goes
course.
stale faster. And another thing is it's just like the usability of it. Like when you have it in a tin box, again, you can leave it on the countertop because um
It's
it's
pretty
pretty
enough.
packaging, first
Right.
of all. And, like second of all, I think like it's just a lot more accessible to like, measure, to use
Right.
in different ways versus I think like this space really did need this innovation. So I am very excited. We've loved having you guys as partners. We've loved seeing creators, like using their different ideas. So if you are a creator listening to this podcast, we do have a collaboration with the Blends. If you want to try some innovative recipes and share them, definitely you can apply to the collaborations on khaa-lo, on our app. And I'm very excited for everything that is coming up
Thank you.
next. This is our last question.
Sure.
So, Rama, tell us what can consumers expect from Satya Blends in the next 3, 4 months?
Ooh, I got goosebumps because there's a lot coming. Not to overwhelm everybody, but I think you can tell my excitement that I live, eat, and breathe Satya, and so does my mom.
Love that.
Um, so we launched, like I said, last year, May. We have 9 blends. We are launching our first ever blend after like our first year. So it's going to be
Oh,
launched in hopefully 3 months from now. I'm not
oh my
sharing what it
God.
is. I posted a photo on Instagram, so I'm taking all the guesses in the world there. It is
Hmm.
so delicious. It takes us about 6 months to come up with a new blend, to test it, taste it,
Love
use
that.
it. We get some beta
Hmm.
testers. So this blend is also very dear to our heart. So that's going to be launching in the next 3 months. Um, Second thing is we are launching in Sprouts January
Yeah.
2026. Yeah, so that's more than
Let's
3 months
go.
now. That is the biggest news ever for us,
Hmm.
for our
So
company.
exciting.
Yeah, being a year and a half old, we'll be in Sprouts, which is nationwide. Um,
Hmm.
a great store with beautiful products, and definitely just kind of a dream come true to make these Indian flavors more mainstream and really,
Yeah.
really have people have these flavors accessible, not overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
can really just grab it and go home and sprinkle it on their oatmeal. And now they have a saffron oatmeal, or something like that. But so that's really exciting. And then the third thing is we're going to India in December, from a behind the scenes, founder little tidbit, and we are going to partner up with some more farms,
Oh
which is
my
exciting,
God.
kind of grow our network over there. And
Hmm.
I don't know if I should be sharing this, but talking about another product line in a year from now, something that's using our spices, but that's a pipeline dream, which can happen sooner than later, because like I said, we eat, breathe, and sleep this. So exciting.
I love that. I'm so excited for everything with Satya Blends.
Thank
I think,
you.
like it just also I love how homey these spices feel. And again, like I love how you guys like with your entire branding are so inclusive. So thank you so much, Rama, for, sharing all the BTS. I myself feel very inspired because I think like some of
You.
the conversations that we had about imposter syndrome and,
Yeah,
like similar stuff. Like I think as founders, like you're constantly kind of battling
yeah,
that.
you are.
Um, so I love that you shared with us, and thank you so much, for sharing the entire journey. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if any of the viewers are watching, they can find Insta Satya Blends Instagram on the bio here down there. And I'm very excited for everything that is going to come.
Thank you.
Um, thank you so much, Rama, for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank
And
you. Thank you.
yeah, and I'm excited for like all the partnerships that will be in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You
yes,
you
and
have a great platform, and it's such a great
yeah,
idea. And I think we need more
thank
founders like
you.
you that are offering these type of services and these partnerships.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm so excited for, like everything that's coming for Satya Blends for khaa-lo. And I'm excited to have the food we love with the people we love and be back with more exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rama.